Hello, I am Summer Wyke, and for this shared dataset assignment, I used the Titanic dataset and its binary outcome of survival. I chose to focus my research on wealth factors and titled my infographic, Could Wealth Have Determined Your Fate on the Titanic? In order to tell my story, I chose to use simple bar graphs and one complex jitter plot. To begin this journey, I thought it was important to remind the reader that the majority of people on the Titanic did not survive, which is described in the bar graph above. Next, I wanted to see how the survival rate could have changed based on certain wealth factors, including socioeconomic status and the amount of money the passenger spent on their fare, and also whether or not the passenger had a cabin, which just means an upgraded room that only few people can afford. So let's start by looking at the survival rate when we factor in socioeconomic status. In the first bar graph, we find that the lower class, which means people with less wealth, had a low rate of survival, while the upper class had a high rate of survival. Next, let's look at how the passenger fare, or how much a passenger paid for their ticket, affected the survival rate. Here in the second graph, we find that passengers who paid the least amount of money in the first bar had a low survival rate, while there was a high rate of survival for passengers who paid the highest fares, as seen in the last bar. Finally, let's look at how having a cabin affected the survival rate. Here in the last graph, we find that those passengers who did pay extra for their cabin did survive more often than those who did not have a cabin. I tried different methods for combining these wealth factors into one complex graph, and I settled on this jitter plot because it is really fun to explore. If you look at the top row, we find that the majority of people survived, with those filled in circles. And if you look at the bottom row, we find that the majority of people did not survive. I see a whole bunch of X's there. So clearly, wealth could have determined your fate on the Titanic.